So, welcome, and we are now ready to get started with this webinar. I briefly introduce myself also to those who are attending via the recording. My name is Hannele Savela. I'm Transnational Access Coordinator in the POLARIN network, and I'm located at University of Oulu in Finland. And I will share my screen now so you will be able to see the program for today. Hopefully you are able to see my screen now. Yeah, I can see Veronica is nodding. So we start with a short introduction to the POLARIN project and our activities, and then move forward to hear more about the details and guidelines regarding the POLARIN Transnational Access call and how to apply. And then as the final presentation for today, you will hear an introduction to the POLARIN Transnational Access platform. That is the online application platform to submit your access proposals. And now I would like to give floor to Veronica Willmott for her presentation. Welcome, Veronica.
Thank you very much, Hannele, for the nice introduction. And welcome everybody to this webinar. We are very happy to have you here. Thanks for your time. Let me close here because I still keep continue to share. Yes, I hope you can see my screen. Yeah, very good. Yeah, so as Hannele said, my name is Veronica Willmott, and I'm the project manager of this huge project, POLARIN. POLARIN is funded by Horizon Europe with 15 million euros to provide research infrastructure services. The coordinator is the Alfred Wegener Institute. We are currently 54 partners, and we give access in total to 64 research infrastructures. We are not starting from scratch. We are building on previous achievements made by other European funded projects. You probably know about them. Those are the projects Eurofleets, Interact, Arise, and now currently in parallel running together with POLARIN is the project Aquarius. All these projects were extremely successful in providing transnational access to research infrastructures and developing new services that we are picking up into POLARIN and expanding also to the Antarctic region. The overall aim of POLARIN is to provide efficient and customized research infrastructure services to address the scientific challenges of the polar regions, including the access to a wide portfolio of complementary and interdisciplinary top-level research infrastructures. In POLARIN, we have three main objectives. The first of one is to integrate and combine the access to all these very different set of polar research infrastructures, to improve the online services, data access and interoperability, and also to ensure that the new generations are trained and able to exploit these very extremely useful research infrastructures. So as I said before, we provide access integration to 64 infrastructures, from them 38 research stations, both in the Arctic and in the Antarctic, 12 polar vessels, 18 observatories, either associated to research stations or also independent observatories, 4 ice and sediment core repositories, and 7 data infrastructures. Transnational access, either in person or remote, is fully funded and to research projects that are addressing the key questions in the polar regions. You have all this information in the call page. The call we are launching now is our second call, and I will just want to give you a bit of highlights of the first call that we opened in 2024. In total, we received circa 100 projects. From them, we have selected 37 projects for funding, either requesting terrestrial or marine infrastructures in the Arctic and Antarctic, or a combination of all of these infrastructures. So we have several projects that are multi-infrastructure, most of them, the majority, with strong international cooperation. And just a little reminder, we allowed as well the remote access. So this will facilitates the collection of multiple samples and data from different locations into one single project. If you want to know more about the projects that we have already funded, you can visit our website to get some information. To facilitate the discovery of all these research infrastructures, especially the terrestrial one, we have actually continue building a GIS platform that was previously developed in Interact. And we have expanded this to include also the Antarctic research station. So if you are still in doubt which infrastructure would better serve your research, what kind of data can be collected, where is located, etc., visit this POLARIN GIS, and you will find a lot of information from these infrastructures. Another of the big pillars of POLARIN, as I mentioned before, is the training for research infrastructure users. We are developing webinars for early career researchers and professionals, training also on data stewardship, and we will implement a safety training in person. We are developing online training material on planning for polar fieldwork, safety in polar fieldwork, data stewardship, ethics, and impact of polar research. And the first resources will be available online by the end of the year. We already implemented last year a webinar on polar fieldwork planning this year in May. And the next webinar is planned in 2026, 9th of April and 16th of April. So please save the date. If you want to see the previous recording, you can find it located in Vimeo. We also contribute to improve the data landscape to ensure that data can be reutilized and data that has been collected can be used further. With a single entry portal that will access polar data, so which is harvesting from different databases into one single entryway. We will provide virtual access to metadata, data, and data services that were not available before. We optimize the implementation and integration of data services and products, and we will create as well new data products that can be directly used by researchers and decision makers. This is the POLARIN Data Hub. You can access, it's still in beta, so we are still developing this platform, but you can already enter and test what features it has. It's actually an entry portal that will allow you to harvest resources from different databases. So we are not hosting the data, but just facilitating the communication between databases to be able to extract data from there. So there is an overview of the available resources with a link to services. You can put this data you want to see into a shopping basket, let's say. Of course, it's free of charge. And you can preview or download the data to integrate into models or whatever the needs you have. More will come soon. So this is still in development, and we will have new features very soon. Here I would like to show you the huge consortium we have. Without all these partners, wonderful partners, we will not be able to provide access to so many infrastructures. So this is only to show you the challenge that is to go beyond borders to provide access to researchers to facilities that are not from their national pool. And that's it. Thank you. Should you have any questions, just please contact us. We are very happy to hear from you.
Thanks a lot, Veronica. Are there any questions to Veronica at this stage? We could take a couple. If not, then I think we'll proceed. And if at any stage you have questions to Veronica, you're welcome to ask. We have a dedicated session in the end of the program for questions and answers. So now we go into more detail into the Transnational Access Call and the application guidelines. And I will share my screen again. And can you see it? Yes.
Yes.
Thank you very much. And now it's in the presentation mode. So what I'm going to touch upon in this presentation is the following list of topics. So we start by talking a little bit about what is actually transnational access, what is included in it, what kind of modalities of access we offer in POLARIN. Then we go into a little bit more details about the transnational access call, important deadlines, and so on. And then we really dig into the practicalities regarding how to apply. We talk a little bit about the access provision chain, the process in POLARIN, and then about the specific eligibility rules, because those are really important for you to know when you are applying for transnational access. Then we go through the call topics, the POLARIN data policy, because it's very important that our applicants comply with the data policy we have. Then some details and information to you about the evaluation and selection process for transnational access. We talk about access priority. What does it mean from the applicant perspective? And then something also about what happens and what is expected from the TA user groups if access is granted. So what is transnational access? So we have two different modalities of access we offer in this call. And the first one is in-person access. And that means the people, the TA users, in person visit the research infrastructure to conduct their study. And it means free of charge transnational access to the infrastructure or their installations. And this in-person access includes the use of the research infrastructure and also the travel and logistic costs associated to the access, as well as meals and accommodation at the research infrastructure. It also includes the specific support and training for the researchers that are using the research infrastructure up to the granted amount. So there is always a limit to what can be used. Then the second mode of transnational access is called remote access. And in this modality, the users are provided with reference materials or samples. They can get access to this high-performance computing facility, for example, or they can receive the data from the study that the research infrastructure staff has conducted. And this study, of course, will be conducted according to the user's research plan and protocol. And this form of access includes the use of the research infrastructure and logistic costs, for example, if the samples need to be shipped to the TA user's home institution. So freight and shipping are included, up to the granted amount again. And it's also possible in the same application to combine in-person and remote access. So it's good to also keep that in mind. It gives you quite nice flexibility for your study. For example, you can use in-person access to first visit the research infrastructure and kind of set up your experiment there, and then the project can run with the remote access so that the research infrastructure staff is helping you with the monitoring activities or collecting the samples and so on. Then the last note here is what is not included into the access. It's also good for you to know about that already when you are preparing your proposal. So salary costs, personnel costs of any kind are not included. Any kind of allowances also are not included in the access. For example, daily allowance, meal allowance, kilometer allowance. Insurance costs, subcontracting, publication costs, overheads, equipment purchases or rental, consumables, phone bills, and so on. These are not included into the access. Then to the information about the currently ongoing transnational access call. So altogether 42 research infrastructures are offered for access in this call. And for most of the infrastructures, this includes both modalities, both in-person and remote access. But there are some exceptions to this depending on the research infrastructure. And you find a listing of all the research infrastructures offering access in the call, and also what kind of access they offer and at what time period from the Transnational Access call page that is under the general POLARIN website. The deadline of the call is 30th of October at 4 p.m. CET. And all the proposals, the applications for transnational access, must be submitted through the POLARIN Transnational Access platform, POLARIN TAP. And that is the online system that we use to manage the whole transnational access provision chain, from the calls to applications and to the reporting of the used access. And of course, late submissions and submissions via any other channel than POLARIN TAP will not be accepted. And the access decisions will be announced to the applicants in mid-March 2026 via POLARIN TAP. For information about the call and how to apply are available on the call webpage. You can see the link over here. Then we have these guidelines for applicants. This is also available online and also in the POLARIN TAP system. And as Veronica already mentioned, the information about the research infrastructure is available in the POLARIN GIS and also on the POLARIN website. Then how to apply? I have added here a kind of short to-do list that you can follow when you are preparing your proposal for access. So first you should start by reading carefully the guidelines for applicants. That really contains all the information in a nutshell that you need to know in order to prepare a good and successful proposal. And after that, you have to create a user account in POLARIN TAP to start preparing and drafting your proposal. The third point here on the list is very important, and we highly recommend that you contact the research infrastructure operator where you plan to apply for access to consult them if your proposal is feasible to be conducted at that research infrastructure where you are planning to apply. And this is a really important stage because it's like really saves a lot of trouble and extra work from you when you know already from the beginning that your idea is something that could be actually implemented at the research infrastructure. And we provide the contact details to the research infrastructure persons, points of contact on the TA Call webpage. The fourth thing on the list is to fill in the application form in the POLARIN TAP. And after you have worked on the application form, then you also should prepare and upload the appendixes to the application. We talk a little bit in more detail about these appendixes, what they are and what they should contain later on in this presentation. And then, of course, the last point, which is very important, that you should submit your application before the call deadline on 30th of October at 4 p.m. CET. And you can work on your application in several sessions and store it in between the sessions. But it's good to know that you can only submit one application per call where you are a TA user group leader. So you can be a team member in several applications, but in only one proposal you can be the team leader applying for access. And on the lower part of the slide, you can see the appendixes that are required. There are 3 to 5, depending on your status, researcher status, and where you are applying for access. So from all proposals, we require these first 3 appendixes, and these are the project description, the CV of the user group leader, and then the preliminary transnational access data management plan. If you are an early career researcher, then we also require 1 or 2 letters of recommendation. And then if you are applying access to the Tara Polar Research Station or via Antarctica INSync, then also an endorsement letter is required as an appendix. Templates for all of these appendixes, including guidelines how to fill them in, are available on the call webpage and in POLARIN TAP. This slide details the appendixes and their content. So the project description, of course, you have to adhere very strictly to the maximum number of the pages allowed. And this depends on the type of research infrastructure where you are applying. For example, if you are applying to Arctic research infrastructure, then the maximum page limit is 6 pages. If you are applying to Antarctic research infrastructure or research vessel or multiple research infrastructure, then you can have maximum 8 pages in your project description. And all research plans or project descriptions failing the instructed structure or exceeding the page limit will be rejected from the evaluation. So they will be non-eligible for scientific evaluation. And please consult the research infrastructure manager or operator if there are any permits or licensing needed in your proposal that you should mention about in the project description. Then the CV of the user group leader follow the CV template, and the maximum page limit is 1 page. For the Transnational Access Data Management Plan, you should also use the preliminary TA Data Management Plan template. And there in this appendix, you describe the management of data that you are gathering in your proposed project. And this data management plan will only be assessed if the project is selected for implementation, if the access is granted. But anyhow, this preliminary version of the TA Data Management Plan is a compulsory appendix with the proposal. A couple words about the letters of recommendation. So early career researchers, which means in our case, undergraduate, graduate or postgraduate level, up to 5 years active in science after the latest degree. If these early career researchers are applying as user group leader, then they must provide 1 to 2 of letter of recommendations from their academic supervisor or other relevant person who knows you and can support your proposal. And then the 5th type of appendix is endorsement letter. And this is required, as I mentioned, only applicants to Tara Polar Station or applicants who are applying within the Antarctica in Sync initiative. And this endorsement letter means that the applicants must prepare a short project summary following the provided template and send it by email to the contact point of the research infrastructure. And it's very important that you request for this endorsement letter as soon as possible, because there is a deadline for these endorsement requests to the research infrastructure operators, and that is 30th of September. So please take care in case you are planning to apply to via these 2 initiatives to submit your endorsement request before end of September. And all the templates include the guidelines, how to fill in the template and prepare these appendixes, and everything is available and can be downloaded from our TA Call page or from the POLARIN TAP. And once more, the research infrastructure information is available on the POLARIN website and in this POLARIN GIS platform. Here you can see the POLARIN Transnational Access provision chain, and it consists of several stages. First, we have the Transnational Access Call, of course, open as we have now. And then after the call is closing, we do the eligibility check on all the proposals by the TA coordination. And after that, the eligible proposals proceed to the scientific evaluation, after which the access recommendations are made to the research infrastructures. And only those proposals that pass the scientific evaluation and are recommended for access to research infrastructure proceed to the logistic evaluation. Those that are not recommended for access after scientific evaluation will already be declined access at that stage. Then after the logistic evaluation is done by the research infrastructure operators, they make the access decisions. And those projects that are granted access then enter the negotiation stage. These details on the access implementation will be agreed with the research infrastructure operators, and also there will be 1 or 2 agreements signed between the POLARIN consortium and the TA user group, and with the TA user group leader and the research infrastructure. And after the negotiation phase, the project granted access then proceeds to the implementation. And after the access has been implemented, there is a reporting of the outcomes of the access. Now these following 2 slides are very important, and these are about the eligibility rules that we have for the access applications. And there are 7 of these eligibility rules altogether. And the proposals will only be accepted or proceed to the scientific evaluation if they meet all of these following 7 eligibility criteria. And the first one is about the affiliation. Firstly, the user group leader and majority of the users must work in an institution that is based in European Union member state or Horizon Europe associated country, with the only exception of user groups led by Ukrainian researchers from government-controlled territories. Secondly, the user group leader and at least 80% of the users must work in countries other than the countries where the legal entity operating the requested infrastructure is based. So this means that 1 in 5 can be from the same country than the research where access is requested. And thirdly, the user groups that have more than 4 users must include researchers from at least 2 different countries. The second eligibility group concerns the expertise, and it states that the user group leader must have appropriate expertise to lead the research at the requested research infrastructure. And of course, this will be further evaluated and determined in the scientific evaluation from the CV of the user group leader, and also in the project description, where the specific fields and the expertise of each TA user group member must be specified or provided. The third eligibility rule is about the duration of the period of access to research infrastructure. And the maximum duration of granted access is limited to the units of access offered in POLARIN for this research infrastructure. And in any case, it must be less than 3 months. And this is for insurance reasons. Then 4 more eligibility rules explained here. The fourth is about the key research priorities. We will take a look on those in the next slides, but the proposals must contribute and address at least one of the key research priorities in the polar regions, as detailed in the call text. And more information is available on the POLARIN website and in the next slides. Then fifth is about dissemination, and this means that only user groups that are allowed and willing to disseminate the results of the research generated under the project or under the access are eligible for access. Only exception is if the users are working for small and medium size enterprise. The sixth eligibility rule is about data policy, and all user groups must agree to comply with the POLARIN data policy. For example, this includes that the data will be openly and publicly shared after the access implementation. We have specific instructions for that. And these are provided in the call webpage and guidelines for applicants. And the 7th one is the application documents, eligibility criteria. And it details that the proposals with project descriptions and CVs failing to follow the instructed structure and guidelines and exceeding the maximum length will be rejected from the evaluation as non-eligible. And non-fulfillment of any of these previous criteria implies non-acceptance of the proposal for further evaluation. And I know, and we know that these are quite strict eligibility rules, and there are many of them, but we get so many proposals, and we really need to follow all the guidelines and instructions set up to us by the European Commission, that it's absolutely necessary to comply with all of these eligibility criteria. Here you can see the listing of the call topics, or the call topic, including these research priorities in polar regions. And as I stated before, in order to be eligible in the call, the applications must contribute to address at least one of these following key research priorities. The first one is sea ice and polar oceans in the climate system. Secondly, polar ice sheets, glaciers, and sea level. The third one is terrestrial carbon cycle and permafrost. Fourth is polar ecosystems and biodiversity. Fifth, atmosphere dynamics and chemistry. Sixth is paleoclimate processes and variability. And the seventh is humans, societies, and global changes. So you can see these are very wide arching topics, but anyhow, it's important to be specific and justify in your proposals how you are addressing these key research priorities. Then about the POLARIN data policy. As I mentioned, the applicants must comply with the POLARIN data policy. And we require that a preliminary TA data management plan is attached as an appendix with all proposals. It will only be assessed if access is granted, but anyhow, it has to be there and to be filled in according to the guidelines in the document template. And this POLARIN data policy requires that the user groups that are granted transnational access must agree to publish their data that has been obtained during the access implementation in a trusted repository, the latest within 24 months from the completion of the access. And we will provide support and training to the TA user groups regarding, for example, how to identify this trusted repository for your data publication and how to implement suitable metadata and data standards. So you will be not left alone with these issues. We are providing you support all the way along if access is granted. And after the access implementation, the user groups are obliged to report the citation and DOI or other relevant persistent identifier of the resulting datasets, as well as the information regarding the publications resulting from transnational access within POLARIN in the POLARIN TAP system or in the POLARIN Zenodo community. And also we will provide all our user groups with information and guidelines how to do this. Then we move forward along this access provision chain and next talk a little bit more about the scientific evaluation process so that you know what kind of things the evaluators are looking after in the proposals. So the scientific evaluation and access recommendation stage or phase in the access provision process is managed by the Scientific Evaluation Secretariat, and it is supported by the Scientific Liaison Panel And in the scientific liaison panel, we have a little bit over 20 members, I think, at the moment. And over half of the members are external to the POLARIN consortium. And each access proposal or application is assigned with a watchdog from the scientific liaison panel who has the specific expertise fitting that proposal. And this watchdog is overseeing the scientific evaluation of that proposal, and also, if access is granted, is following the project throughout the implementation and reporting. So it is kind of a support mechanism to the scientific evaluation and to project implementation and reporting. And then we have additionally completely external reviewers that are evaluating the proposals by predefined criteria that you can see below in the lower part of this slide. And the scientific liaison panel then prepares scientific evaluation statements and access recommendations in a consensus meeting that they have after that the scientific evaluations have been done by the external reviewers. And in this consensus meeting, they then decide to whom the access is recommended. And these access recommendations are then sent to the research infrastructure operators who then continue by conducting a logistic evaluation to the recommended proposals. So it's a two-step process. First, the scientific evaluation done by the external reviewers and kind of put together by the scientific liaison panel, and after that, the logistic evaluation done to the recommended projects. And everything, all of this is done in this TAP system. And now here, the lower part of the screen, you can see the scientific evaluation criteria. These are also provided in the guidelines for the applicants, so you can see what kind of issues are evaluated in the scientific evaluation. And there are 6 of scientific evaluation criteria altogether, and each of these is scored from 1 to 5, from poor to excellent. The first one is the scientific quality of the planned research. That has weighing of 25% in the overall scores. The second one is the scientific and societal impact with 10% weighing in the overall scores. Third one is the quality of the work plan and possible risks, 25% weighing in the overall scores. The fourth one is the scientific competence of the user group leader and user group with 15% weighing. Fifth is the expected results with 10% weighing. And the last one, the sixth one, is the exploitation of results, kind of outreach and dissemination. And that is 15% weighing in the overall scores. And each external reviewer to whom the proposal is assigned for evaluation is scoring for all of these criteria for the proposal. Then moving to the second phase of the evaluation, the logistic evaluation and access decision phase. And as I mentioned, this is done by the research infrastructure operators on the proposals that are recommended for access after the scientific evaluation. And they do this logistic evaluation, for example, by considering the logistic feasibility of the proposed work, the use of equipment, area of operation, timing of access, and so on. And we have a structure that is called Infrastructure Operators Forum, and this provides support and consultation to the research infrastructure operators when they are doing this logistic evaluation and access decisions. So we have a meeting to all infrastructure operators during the logistic evaluation phase to provide consultation and guidance. And after the research infrastructure operators have familiarize themselves with the proposals, then they made this logistic evaluation. Then they provide a short logistic evaluation statement and make an access decision in the TAP system. And the access decisions are sent to the applicants after this access decision has been submitted by the research infrastructure operators. And all these access decisions are sent out in the POLARIN TAP system. And the access decisions include the amount of granted access, the units of access, and also how much travel and logistic costs are granted for the TA user group. And also this access decision includes both the scientific evaluation statement done by the SLP and also the logistic evaluation statement that has been provided and prepared by the research infrastructure operator. And after the access decisions have been sent out, then those projects who are granted access enter this negotiation phase. And during this phase, the applicants granted access, they must first, of course, accept, and if they want to receive the granted access in POLARIN TAP. And then during the negotiation between the TA users, granted access, and the research infrastructure operators, it is still possible to make some adjustments to the access implementation based on the recommendations by the SLP or the research infrastructure operators, or by mutual agreement between the TA user group and the research infrastructure.
Check how many people participate. 61. Wow.
And then the third important aspect of this negotiation phase is signing of the agreements with the POLARIN consortium and with the research infrastructure where access is granted. And we provide agreement templates for this to all the TA user groups. Then this next slide is about the access priority. I mentioned that this access priority is part of the selection process for transnational access. And this is a little bit specific case. And it is used if the selection, it is used in a situation if there is equal scientific merit after the scientific evaluation, for example, for two user groups. So then in that situation, this access priority is implemented. And it means that priority will be given, access will be rather recommended to user groups that are composed of users who have not previously used the installation, who are working in countries that have no equivalent research infrastructure, multidisciplinary and multinational user groups, to user groups with gender balance and involvement of early career researchers, and to Ukrainian researchers from government-controlled territories as user group leaders. And secondly, access priority is given to projects that consider remote access to research infrastructures, access to multiple research infrastructures, or a two-pole approach. And also for projects that are making a contribution to large-scale polar initiatives. So even though this access priority is implemented in this specific case, there is like even score between two different user groups. It's anyhow good to know this and keep this in mind when you are planning for your proposal. So you can kind of see if your project checks all these different bullet points. Then very briefly, what happens after access has been granted to your project? So it's good to know that the preparations to the access implementations are done by the user group themselves in consultation and collaboration with the research infrastructure. For example, confirming the dates for the access and booking the accommodation from the research infrastructure. It's under the responsibility of the user group. Then, of course, the user group themselves must apply or undergo the research infrastructure specific permitting, licensing, training, or medical examination processes. The user groups themselves are making the travel and flight arrangements to and from the research infrastructure. This is, of course, done in consultation with the research infrastructure and in collaboration with them. And always the research infrastructure is providing guidance to any aspects of the access implementation. There are specific parts of the travel to some research infrastructures that are chartered, and then those the research infrastructure is taking care by themselves for you. And then very importantly, also the user groups have to take care of their own insurance arrangements. For example, if the search and rescue insurance is needed. Then secondly, of course, the access fieldwork implementation is done by the user group following the policy and safety and other regulations of the research infrastructure. And thirdly, after the access has been implemented, the user group leader is submitting a project report in the POLARIN TAP system consisting of a general, scientific and feedback sections. Then the submission of the travel claims or travel reimbursement arrangements are done by the user group themselves. They submit the travel claims to the research infrastructures. And then, of course, analyzing, publishing the data and making it openly available, as well as reporting publications and open access data sets in POLARIN TAP. Here, just as a last slides, we provide our contact information. You are welcome to contact us with any questions you have regarding the proposals or transnational access, and me and Vanessa Spadetto, who will give the next presentation, who is also present here today, will provide answers to any general questions about the TA applications. If you have any inquiries regarding the scientific evaluation, we have an email address to the POLARIN Evaluation Secretariat that you can contact. And in technical matters regarding POLARIN TAP, you are always welcome to contact our system support at InCode. That's the third email address here on the slide. And then final reminder that we don't only, of course, wish to have really many proposals to the transnational access call, but we would also need external experts to evaluate the proposals. And if you are interested in serving as an expert to review the access proposals, please join the POLARIN expert pool to help us with this evaluation. It's very important work, and we highly appreciate our evaluators. And you can register to this POLARIN expert pool from the link available in this presentation. We will also provide these presentation slides and the recording on the TA call webpage afterwards, probably tomorrow already. And with this, I thank you, and I'll see what kind of questions we have in the chat, and then Vanessa will proceed after that with telling about the transnational access platform.
Yes, hello everyone. So I'll start presenting POLARIN TAP and how to do the application in practice. Then for any question also regarding the presentation of Hannele, we have the Q&A. So I'll start sharing. Can you see the presentation properly?
Not
Yes.
yet.
Okay.
Not yet.
So, okay. How about now?
Yes.
Now it's working.
Yes. Okay. I got also the push-up notification. Okay, so first things first, as Hannele has also mentioned, the application is only possible through POLARIN TAP. Any other type of submission, kind of like by email, is not possible. And the POLARIN TAP system automatically closes after the deadline. So no submission is possible after the 30th of October at 59 seconds. This is very important because we had issues previously of users that wanted to submit just 3 minutes after the deadline, and that is not possible. So that's the URL to access to POLARIN TAP. And first step before applying is, of course, as Hannele said, to read the guidelines for applicants truly, because all the information is there. Of course, if you have further question, you can always contact us, but that's the first document that you need to read before applying. And there's no excuse because that is available in the description of the call in POLARIN TAP, in the POLARIN TA dedicated call page, and also in POLARIN TAP document library. Of course, before starting applying, you have to register to the platform, and you can see that it appears on the top part of the homepage. Either register or log in if you already have a user account. Then you can start the application when you have registered. You can see that, of course, in the homepage of POLARIN, but also if you go on Oulu, you can see and you click apply. You will open the application form. As Hannele said, you can come back, save, and start and continue your application for all the time the call is open. But of course, you need to submit for us to be able to evaluate it. So if you're not submitted, it will not be evaluated. First things first is to accept the terms and conditions. You have to for the terms and conditions and for the data policy of POLARIN. And here on the left, you can see all the steps you have to go through in POLARIN TAP in order.
Was Vanessa dropped out?
Oh, I'm sharing again, or do I need to share?
Maybe
I
you
need
can
to-
repeat the couple previous sentences, okay?
Yes.
And
Okay.
you
Can you?
exactly, you need to share again. Yeah,
Can
now
you
it's loading.
Okay.
Yeah, now it's fine.
Okay, so I think we were at the previous stage when you have to accept the terms and condition and the POLARIN data policy, which is the first step of the application platform form. In the second one is the project. Here you have to assign an acronym to your project, a title, and provide a summary, a short abstract for the project. Then continuation of the same section, you have to provide a scientific discipline among the classification that is given by the EU. And then to assign up to 5 keywords that are based on NIRSA's GCMD keywords list. This is for us for being able to track how much of each field of research we are funding and supporting. Then, if relevant, please describe if your proposal is relevant for the ESA research and development projects, specifically for the ESA Polar Science Cluster. And then you have here a question, if you have been previously received EU funding from other transnational access programs. This is important here. This not affect in any way your chances to be granted for POLARIN. Because as Hannele mentioned, there is access priority that says that priority is given to users that have not previously used the installation, but that's referred to POLARIN project only. So be honest here, because we just needed to track the progression and the synergies with the previous EU funding project, but that doesn't affect in any way your chances to be granted. Then here just to show you that at the end of each section you have the save button and he appears in a push-up notification when you have saved that your save has been successful, and you can then go to my application, and when you have started an application you can see it here and go to edit anytime until the deadline of the call. The third step is the entering the user group members. First, you can see here there is a notification that tells you that if you are the main applicant, meaning that you are the person that have registered to POLARIN TAP, you are starting the application, you need to be also the user group leader, because for us, all the responsibility, liabilities, agreements are done via the user group leader and it's their institution. So it's important that the main applicant is also the user group leader. All communication and reporting in TAP needs to be connected to the same person. Then here you can start with filling your registration data. You have a facilitating option that if pre-fills you the registration data with what you have entered in your registration form. Here you can see I am the main applicant, and so I have ticked true in the group leader section. Then you have to also tick if you're an early career researcher or not. And then for the user group leader, there will pop up a question that asking you whether your organization, so your institution, is part of the POLARIN consortium. You can see the POLARIN Partner Consortium list in the document library. So you can always go to the menu on the left, click document library. You have a series of documents that are relevant for the call, and one of these is this one. So you download it and check. This does not affect your chances to be granted. It's just for us to know, because if you are granted and your institution is part of the consortium, then the reimbursement process is different. But that's the only reason why we need to know. Then you enter the information about you and the other members. To add other members, you can add it on the top right. You have the plus with add, or after the last members that you've added, you have the option add new user group member. You save and you go next when you have completed. It's important here you list all the users that are requesting access. You can also add members that are helping you with the analysis of data, but that is not actually relevant for us. What we really care is to know who is requesting and using access. Then the next section, very important, is to add your access request. You start with choosing the first research infrastructure. And here it appears a drop-down menu with the list of the infrastructure that are available in this code. If the infrastructure that you want to apply to is not in this list, it means that it's not available for the call. You can also see the available ARIs in this call in the TA dedicated webpage of the POLARIN website. Then you can also propose a second option in case the ARI is not available if your project is granted. Then there is a question about whether you have contacted or not the infrastructure. This is just for us to know. As Hannele was saying, we strongly recommend you to contact the infrastructure because it's very useful. They can really help you understanding the feasibility of the study and what is available at the ARI and also the time frame and so forth. Of course, the ARI operators can be very busy, as I can see from the one of the question in the chat. Sometimes they are not responsive, but you can always contact us and we can try to solicit them to respond to you or provide another contact for the ARI. But ultimately, we are not responsible if they are not responsive. So it's something out of our control. We try to help you, but if at the end your proposal, for example, is not granted in the logistic evaluation, you cannot use the fact that the ARI operator has not responded as a ground for complaint, because this is not something that the POLARIN coordination can do something about, let's say. Then you can start adding the accesses for each ARI. How do you add the accesses? It means people going to the ARI or using remote access. You add the first access. And for each access request, you will be asking whether it's physical, so in-person access or remote access. And if it's physical access, then you have to provide the user that is requesting the access. This is very important because the access is linked to the person because of the eligibility check. So please read the eligibility rules and make sure that the users that are requesting access are eligible for that ARI. Then there is the calendar option to provide access period. You would like to access the infrastructure. it'll show you, you can see here, the availability period of the ARI. So you can only choose dates within the availability periods of the ARIs for this call. You can see the whole list of the ARIs with their availability period in the infrastructure table that is in the POLARIN website, the TA dedicated call page. Then I have to provide a number of units, so days that you want to access the infrastructure. Here, the access period is different from the requested units. The access period is the time frame you would like to access the ARI. For example, your field work, because of the type of research you do, needs to be done either in May, April, August, and so forth. While the requested unit is the number of days you will access the ARI for your field work. And for the terrestrial station, that means the time that you are at the station, because you're supposed to go there for what you have to do, not for vacation. So for field work, sampling, lab time. For vessels, it's the science working days that you're actually working on your project, and it's not the day at sea, because of course the cruise plan is longer than what you actually have to do for your project. The access period can be adjusted after your project is granted in negotiation with the ARI operator. So if the access period that you're requesting is not working for the ARI, they will propose you another period. So please use this option as actually useful information to give to the ARI. Don't put just the longest period that you are available to access the ARI. Then you can add another access for the same infrastructure, because you can access the same infrastructure multiple times, or you can access multiple infrastructure, or you can access multiple infrastructure multiple times. So you can add a new access or add a new ARI. In general, the process here, you add the research infrastructure and then you add the accesses for that ARI, and that means that you need to add an access for each person for each period. For example, if one person is going in 3 different periods for the same ARI, you add 3 access requests with the same person and 3 different periods. If you have 2 people that request access in the same period, you have 2 access requests with 2 different names, but the same period. Same, if you have 2 people requesting 3 periods, it means that you have 6 requests, which 3 of them with one name, 3 of them with another name, and different time periods. And then you go and you add the second research infrastructure and you do the same until you have completed. Then here, for example, just to show you, I added a second access request, and this is for a remote access. And as you can see, it doesn't ask you for the person because it's for your whole group if it's a remote access. And then I added a second ARI and a first access from the second ARI. Here, as I added a secondary access for the second ARI, and here you can see I asked I requested access to POLARIN, which is a German infrastructure, and my second member is coming from a German institution. It will show you that there might be an issue with the eligibility rules. So please check that if you see that. But you have to know also like that the user group leader and at least 80% of the users must work in countries than the countries where the legal entity is operating, which means that if you have a user group of 5 people, 1 can be German for this case. Then there is a specific mode to enter the access request for these 3 types of ARIs in this call. Because POLARIN TAP handles differently the calculation for the requested units based on the type of unit cost of the ARI. And for these 3 ARI, you have to add the accesses differently, which means that you have to add the ARI, and then I'll add all the accesses for the same period in one access request. The interface will be different, so it will allow you to do that, and that is group access. And then you can, if you need to access the same infrastructure for a second time, you cannot add a new access within the same. You have to add it again as a new infrastructure, but you type the same infrastructure and you add again the access as a group. I can show you here in practice what does it mean. For example, I ask access for Advunsen that is using this type of calculation. And when I request the access, the first access, you can see that I can add multiple people in the same access request. And on the top right, you can see the number of members that is requested for that access period. Then I want to access again the same infrastructure. So I have to choose a new infrastructure. It will not appear the option to add a new access. You have only the option to add a new research infrastructure. And then, so you click that and you re-add Admunsen in this case, and you will see that it's another number. And here I add again the members as many as want. Doesn't need to be the same people or the same amount of the previous, just you need to add it in this way. Then end of this section on the logistic information. You have to provide information whether you need training and then a justification for transnational access, so why you cannot access a national infrastructure for what you have to do. Next step, also this one is very important, is the travel and logistic cost. Here, just to show you how it looks like, you have the option to add cost for each of the access requests, because each of the access requests means one people going somewhere in a determinate access period. So it means that they are different one from the other, the route that you're following and the time that you're going. So here an example how to fill this section. I am going to Amundsen, so I have to go to the port where they are living. I'm leaving from in this first section. I show the route and come back from the infrastructure and back from the infrastructure. So where I start and when I need to go, where I go in between and how. And then you add the cost items below. There are 3 categories of eligible cost. There is the travel cost, the visa, and the freight cost. So you add the amount and provide a specification for what that is that amount. For example, here at the train, the accommodation en route 1 night in between the 2 flights, the reimbursable return flight ticket, and the bus to go to the hotel or where you're going. Important here, reimbursable flight tickets, because if for any reason you cannot go anymore to the RI, we cannot reimburse for flights for travels that have not incurred. So you will need to be reimbursed for that. So next section is the publication, the 6th section, where you are asked to identify the key research priorities that your project is contributing to. And here you have a drop-down list with the 7 key research priorities that were listed by Hannele in her presentation. Plus, there are 3 more, that is Antarctica in Sync, the Terra Polaris, and the ESA Polar Science Cluster. So you add as many as you think of the key research priorities, plus you also add one of these 3 if your project is relevant to ESA research. So if you have added that description in the section 1, if you're applying to Tara Polar Station, and if you're applying to one of the ARIs contributing to Antarctica in INSIC. It's easier for us to track the eligibility check if you have ticked this box here. Then, well, there is a second, an open question where you're asked to provide an explanation for why your project is contributing to this. And then any planned publication and the 5 most relevant publication that you have published. Final section of the application form is uploading the attachments. As it was already presented, you have some required attachment for all type of applicants. That is the project description, the CV of the user group leader, and the preliminary data management plan. Then additionally, if you have taken that you are early career researcher, being a user group leader, then it will be mandatory also to upload 1 or 2 letter of recommendation. Then if you're applying to Tara Polar Station or if to arise that are contributing to Antarctica in Sync, you have to upload an endorsement letter. All the templates are available in the Call dedicated webpage of POLARIN website, but also in the POLARIN TAP document library. Then the final is reviewing all the information that you have and check that very well, because you can submit the one application per applicant per call. So you cannot edit after you have submitted, and that is final. Once you have submitted, you go back to the My Application and you can see that you only have the view option on your proposal. You cannot edit it anymore. If you have any information on how to fill in the application form or anything is not clear, you can contact me. If you have any issues with the platform, there is the IT technical support POLARIN at inco.it. And also the email for general inquiries on POLARIN TA that was already provided by Hannele. This manual is also uploaded in the document library of POLARIN TAP, so you can always access it if you need to go back and look how to add information in the application form. Thank you. So now, if you have any question about the application or the presentation Hannele gave.
I can see there has been a lot of text in the chat, and but I see Liane, you have a question. Please go ahead.
No, I didn't have a question. I just want to say thank you very much for the information.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks for joining. What do you think, Veronica? Should we go through the questions in chat, or?
I would like to comment on the last question, what the majority mean in the eligibility criteria. So we say that the user group leader and the majority of the users must work in an institution based at EU member state or Horizon Europe associated country. This is critical. So majority, we cannot cut people in pieces. So if 3 applicants are applying for access, we can have maximum 1 person, right? That will be not based at a EU or associated country. So this is what majority means. So if it's 2 applicants, that will be 50%. We need at least more than half majority. So that's the rule. And this is the main criteria. So first check your affiliation, whether you have actually the right to get funded, and then continue from there.
Yeah, I can see there's one question in the chat where the person would like to know if there are any restrictions on the number of proposals a researcher can participate in as a member of the research team. Also, he would like to know if he submits a proposal as a leader, could I participate in another proposal as a team member? Yes, that is possible. It's possible to be in more than 1 proposal as a team member, but only in 1 proposal as the team leader. We have so far seen maybe like in 2 or 3 proposals in maximum the same person, but
Please,
maybe
I would like
not in 20.
I would like to reflect as well on the responsibilities of the user group leader. The user group leader has the responsibility to sign the access contracts with POLARIN, and also to address all the access to travels arrangements, etc. So it's the institution of the user group leader who is actually signing this contract. So this is why this person is really, let's say, the key, the leader of the team.
And you cannot replace a user group leader. That has to remain the same. That's very critical too. Like you can replace a team member in the but not the user group leader.
He could access or not access the user group leader, but it's the person who will be the responsible and the institute that will sign the contract.
And then I could maybe a little bit reflect on what Vanessa explained and showed that there is a section in the proposal form where you can indicate if you need any research training or anything like, or any training to access the infrastructure. And I noticed in the previous call round that everyone answered that they don't need any training. But in fact, it has now come up that training is very useful for many TA user groups. So please don't be afraid to answer that you need training and to specify what kind of training you think would be useful. It is not evaluated in that sense that you would be declined access if you need training. But it is very helpful for us so we can anticipate and see what kind of training needs people have and TA user groups have. We are here to help and provide such training. Okay, Leon, please.
Now I actually have a question.
Good.
So obviously, if we put a proposal in and one of the team members who is an early career researcher, for example, has applied for a job and between proposal submission and proposal granting and fieldwork, they change institution, although they don't change it to a country which is a problem. Is that an issue or not?
Veronica, do you
No,
want or?
Yes, I want to answer. It's not nothing is really. I mean, we can navigate. So of course, if this researcher, we have had even user group leaders that had changed the institution before signing the contract. So we know they apply with an institution and positions change. Of course, as long as the eligibility rules are still complied, it's okay, right? So it has to be from an institution. Yes, and we have had, so for all of you that might be interested, we have had the case of user group leaders at the moment of applying. They were in X institution, they moved to B institution, as long as it still is eligible. So whenever you apply, you should already anticipate, oh, I'm actually moving between institutions. Now I'm in this country, I will be based in another country, I should apply to an infrastructure. Of course, that fits my research, but that is eligible, not from the country where you're moving in.
Thank you very much.
And if the agreement with the POLARIN consortium and the research TA user group leader institution has already been signed, and after that there is a change in the institution, of course, again, we check the eligibility, but then also that agreement is then re-signed, a new agreement. Okay, there's a question in chat. Can the leader be from a country other than European member state or Horizon Europe? Veronica, do you want to answer now?
Not in this case. We opened this possibility as well in the first call, but unfortunately, we had too much requests from non-EU countries. We are over our budget for international partners or teams, so that's why we need to lower. We still allow the participation, but we not allow the majority of the users or the user group leader to be not based in EU member state or associated country.
Are there any other questions or concerns or something that is unclear or? If not, then I think it would be the time to close the webinar, and thank you so much for your participation. And this recording as well as the slides will be made available on the dedicated TA Call page. And also, if any questions or concern arise after the webinar, you can also contact us by email at any time. Veronica.
There is another question that I would like to answer if it's okay.
Of course, yeah, we have
asking,
time. We have 10 minutes time.
It's just 1 minute will take me. There is a PhD student who is asking whether it would be wise to apply himself or the supervisor can apply. We strongly recommend you to apply. Of course, you need the sufficient knowledge to implement this project, but it can also be your first access. You do not need experience. You need, of course, the willingness and the attitude to participate in this research. You should be able to perform the research. That's why you will have to make these letters of recommendation from your supervisor. He will have to say that you are able to do it, but please apply. Actually, we didn't mention, but most of our user group leaders are early career researchers. We are here to train the new generations to get access to these research infrastructures. We are here to bring the new Polar research community to give them wings to start. So just please apply.
It was about 40% of the TA user group leaders from the first call that were early career researchers. So there are good chances that you are supported. Anything else? Okay, I think then in this case we are ready to close the webinar, and it was really nice to meet all of you here online, and wishing you really a lot of success in your proposals, and don't hesitate to contact us if anything comes up. Thank you. Have a nice rest of the day.
Good luck
Thank
to all of
very
you,
much.
and see you
Bye-bye.
soon, hopefully.
Thank you.